Hello, I hope all is progressing well. Welcome to I Don't Know, We Can Talk About It, where we discuss myriads of topics civilly, reasonably, and responsibly. My name is Dufresne. Our first topic is about natural disasters. How might an educational atmosphere prepare for a natural disaster? The article really highlights always being in accordance with FEMA guidelines, which may receive updates more frequently than not, which is very sound when assessing what an educational atmosphere might experience in connection with FEMA, in connection with funding. Considering training individuals in an educational atmosphere to be ready for a natural disaster is quite sound as well to ensuring the utmost safety. Whether a natural disaster, a natural occurrence, presents itself in connection with an educational atmosphere or not, being ready may allow for not wasting qualifying for particular parameters in an insurance sense, if one will, ensuring not only is one working in an educational atmosphere aware of what to do, though bringing assurance to any individual of the educational atmosphere that steps are available, preparation is set in the case of whatever environmental situation might happen. Being in a protective, preventative form in connection with an environmental situation that may occur may prove extremely valuable for an educational atmosphere. Ah, bless me. When assessing even what one may consider to be an environmental situation, I think assessing a current environment is most important. I find particular environments are well aware of what naturally may occur. Considering what may be around an environment is quite important as well. When one thinks of different types of insurances, one may think of what may connect to such an instance that might not be clear, which I think is a good reason to assess any guidelines, especially in connection with funding and safety, to ensure clarity of safety measures, of prevention measures, how to navigate if an environmental situation is inclusive of a variable from the sky. For example, God forbid, any type of situation occurs of that sort, though considering if one is ready for hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, what else in connection might affect an educational environment. So I find being ready quite sound, especially with particular situations that might not seem to be so natural. Hence, reason for me moving from natural disaster to more so of an environmental situation, especially one that may occur in connection with the natural environment. I find assessing the parameters so will allow for better preventative measures, better safety measures, as well as considering even structural situations of perhaps what surrounds a building, what a building is of material-wise, even considering if a tree, for example, is rotting and due to a situation near the tree ends up falling onto an educational atmosphere, physically assessing whether the atmosphere protects even the grounding areas from a cable line breaking loose or a tree falling, to ensure as much safety as possible for individuals. Of course, every educational environment may be quite different. Hence, reason for assessing what is most suitable for a particular educational environment in connection with a more immediate environmental situation. Even if that environmental situation is varying for an instance, for a moment, for a period, because of perhaps streets needing repairs, construction nearby. Our next topic is about what might keep district leaders up at night. I mentioned might because perhaps some may feel differently than others. The article brings about 10 topics. I'll go through a few of which I find are pertinent, though all of them are pertinent to the point of needing assessment that may prove valuable to better understanding. When assessing students, social media, cyber safety, what might be going on in a home, a lot of levels of education are connecting seemingly close, though quite distant. Ideologically, politically, when assessing how does a district, God bless me, monitor outcomes that greatly connect from a home, I'm always of the mind sets that individuals must be aware education is supplemental to life. When one goes out to eat at a restaurant, one may enjoy the food, one may find the food a particular way. One may assess the restaurant, one may assess the food, one may assess the chef, one may assess whatever one wants to assess, though when one goes to the market, buys food, one's assessing must be as equivalent. For when one is in one's kitchen, if one cooks, when one is assessing what is going on with one's choices in one's own particular spheres, away from what is set up to cater to particular tastes. A restaurant is set up to cater to particular tastes. Not a guarantee that all tastes will receive satisfaction, though the tastes that appreciate what the restaurant offers will find satisfaction. Whereas when one goes to the market, one gets ingredients for oneself, one grows one's own ingredients, one gathers for oneself, then goes home, one must assess similarly. Acknowledging senses of grace, if one will. Acknowledging difference. Particularly difference without judgment. One may assess whether one finds an ingredient suitable to one's preferable palate. One may have preferences, though one must acknowledge the reality of difference. When coming to an educational atmosphere, one must engage, especially coming from a level of policy, coming from governmental levels down, one must assess educational criteria. What may be so disruptive to a point that an educational environment may not be able to thrive, strive, process? One must consider how educational criterion comes into play with how an educational environment, an educational atmosphere is to be. When individuals find what's happening in the public sphere, connecting through an educational environment, however that may be, individuals may feel differently. If an individual wants the government to control certain processes, then an individual will likely appease to governmental taste. Considering the government is most popularly, familiarly for and of the people in a democracy, in a democratic environment, whether one considers one's party to be of a particular party, we understand the operations of a democracy, particularly in the United States, meaning that operations are for and by the Constitution. Assessing whether having particular discussions in an educational environment is to be under governmental regulations is one situation to assess what is of the discussions, what will become of the discussions, that will prove functional for an individual beyond an academic environment. What tends to happen is the confrontation of reality beyond government and academia, considering the home. Whenever there's an in-between, individuals must be mindful. One may say, well, my family doesn't subscribe to these beliefs, though another family might agree. How each family is around the beliefs may prove differently. One family may not have internet, so the groundings of such beliefs and the routing of the family may be quite different than a family that has internet, that might have beliefs, though is opening the doors of one's homes to whatever's on the internet. Of course, we cannot dismiss the internet. Even considering how one family that we're discussing has no internet, well, a youth of the family may be friends with another individual, subscribing to whatever is on the internet, sharing these sources of the information, and the family may be growing in a particular route because of whoever believes, though one may be encountering information literally on a walk home from a friend about whatever from whoever. That may be challenging to one's beliefs or not. What education helps with, in accordance with educational criterion, is to help individuals use the mind to be resourceful with information, to be efficient, functional human beings outside of academia. When assessing how education may be supplemental, assisting one with how to approach information, how to think, then one may find value in education differently. Regarding variabilities of teaching styles, individuals that may have personal beliefs in an educational environment, everyone is different. Every family is different, and different states have different operations. We're in a big world of difference. So when assessing what a district is to be in conversation of, when assessing what makes sense for a district, beyond finances, of course, assessing the other parameters of investments in respect to legal parameters, if an educational environment is not able to assist one with better learning, better how to navigate information, the full responsibility of that individual's thinking and learning is not completely on the educational environment, due to the reality that an educational environment may only cater to an individual for a certain period of time with limitation. Any individual assessing what one may learn from an educational environment needs to additionally assess the continuum, the full spectrums of educational environments. Also, choice-making, decision-making, because an individual may follow in suit with the family until college, then decide for oneself quite differently how one wants to determine one's life. If thinking is not maturing well, if assessing is not maturing well, one may find challenges later in life when one has to make decisions, choices for oneself. Though one may have help, one may find challenges coordinating with the very individuals seemingly closest, at least closest by physical proximity most of the time. Why? Because culturing tends to be beyond academia. Learning is beyond academia, beyond government. Considering a definition of government, of being of oneself, one must consider one's government, oneself, in connection to the ever-progressing interdependent reality at large. So, when district leaders have to make such decisions in accordance with individuals that may be aware of the full spectrum of learning, the full spectrum of what educational criterion really means, then I find one may find more ease, though ease for the position may be quite different than ease for any unaware in connection with the position. Hence, mindfulness of difference and a respect for the world as the world is, though all working toward better, toward improvement in the best ways possible, is constant learning, applying learning well, teaching will take time. And remember, teaching is not only what a teacher by title is capable of doing. Another area to assess when considering an educational atmosphere comes about financial relations that may not be so apparent, not even to a district leader, not realistically to any individual that might not be aware of governmental relations, aware of relations that are around an educational atmosphere that benefit financially from a particular decision. How funding plays a part is more so in the political area, more so than the ideological area, which is quite interesting because where one entity may be thinking of funding and financing, ideologically, the differences may be clashing within maybe two realms that have nothing to do with what is actually affecting ideologically or financing. Everyone in an educational atmosphere is, I hope and believe, working toward the best of the outcomes of the ever-progressing interdependent reality. So remember, there's no need to stress in any poor form at all, so long as all good efforts are coming together and one is trying one's best and learning how to improve because of the ever-progressing interdependent realities, necessity for good to thrive beyond hope, actually, practically. All right, we're going to get into some origami. Now, today's origami is the origami cicada. If you have multicolored paper, that's fine. As you can see, this is a square piece, and we're just going to fold up or down. We're just going to get one point here. Next, we're going to just take this corner and we're just going to bring it down. Your paper doesn't have to be perfect. Your fold doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to get the idea down here. Next, we're going to fold these after we fold them down as so. I'm going to fold the points up. Okay, and now we fold this point up. You can see them, they're both together. Our next step is, as you see, this flap has two flaps. So we're going to take this flap here. See this? We're going to just fold it up a little bit, give ourselves an initial bend. And then we're going to take this flap over here, and we're going to fold it up here. We're going to do a nice double fold, actually, and you're going to see that in a little bit. So we'll take it up here, we'll fold it up. About halfway is fine. We're looking at this. Then we're going to take this other flap and we're just going to fold it up as well. Okay, so then we're looking at this type of design here. Our next step is, well, we're gonna take these flaps now, we're gonna just flip this so you can see it here, and we're just going to basically fold them over, and they're going to connect. So we're gonna try to insert them a little bit into each other, okay? Just a little bit. All right. And once you get that here, what you have now is, well, you have an origami cicada. And so here it is. So you can see the cicada portion here. You see that? Looks like a cicada, the wings and whatnot. And then on this side, you can see it's somewhat opening. And again, if you just fold them in the layers, it'll be much flatter here. Or you can just fold really hard. Okay? And there you go. See that? And so you can work this however best works out for you and your paper. All right? And there you go. They make that nice sound. Origami cicada. Our next topic is about a physical book. I champion reading physical books due to the many benefits in connection with spatial development. Science longer around than most people alive today. Build the life you want. I appreciate the text because the text does dive into how one may navigate one's happiness, how one may approach even assessing what kind of life one wants to live, why might one want to live the life one wants to live, then brings us to assess, well, why, how is important, and approaches a very psychosocial perspective of understanding one's life in connection with one's goals, one's current reality, and how one's current reality connects to the reality one wants, one's choice life. The text bounces between both authors, one author being very assessing, very encouraging, bringing about perspective of life anecdotally as well as in connection with empowering one to navigate what the other author is speaking of in a different light. And I think both authors work together well. Both seem to appreciate each other. Even more so, both seem to be going in to the reasoning that may help one with procuring one's choice life. Thanks for joining. I don't know. We can talk about it. Remember, one has much control over one's life. Onward and upward, Dufresne.